This is PTV World. I am Syed Shabahat Ali, and you're watching Fault Lines. Before we speak to Dr. Bilal Bagish, let me remind you that the Turkey's major problems that it has been facing for quite some time are the economic issues. Turkey's economy not only was under a lot of stress of inflation, but also the devaluation of Turkish lira was a major point of concern for many, which has certainly affected the lifestyle of many people in Turkey. And despite this, Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has been able to again convince his citizenry to vote for him and to opt for continuation of policy. So let's understand from Dr. Bilal Bagish. Dr. Bilal, I welcome you to the show.
Thank you, Syed. Thanks for having me.
Dr. Bilal, how do you comment on the success of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan amid all the economic and political environment that his government was facing?
Well, with this really high record turnout rate of around 90% in the two rounds of the elections, including the first one with the presidential and the parliamentary election. Although in the second round, the turnout went down to 85%, it is still a relatively high figure, actually. And it also demonstrates the strong democratic structure of Turkey, I would say. So Turkey has had multi-party elections since mid-1940s. And up until today, we were able to manage to have a really strong democratic culture, I would say. And as for the results of this election, well, President Erdogan, the incumbent president, he already had a relatively huge margin of higher votes, even in the first round. So he was already a front runner. He was set to win the second round of the election. With that head start, of course, it was expected that he would still win the second round of the elections. And this is actually the two rounds of the election. They're also a good sign and proof of the really huge support and the loyal vote potential that the incumbent president has in Turkey. Especially from the mainland Anatolia, from the Anatolian heartland. So almost 50% of population in Turkey, they still appreciate all that President Erdogan has done so far for his country, including the infrastructure investments, the social policies, including the new social housing projects, everything that he has done in defense, industry and infrastructure, including health, high-tech initiatives, and new energy discoveries, natural gas, oil, and even the nuclear reactors that are built in Turkey nowadays. And his foreign policy is also approved by the public. But more importantly, I would say this is basically well, it was a vote of confidence for the presidential system that Turkey had in the past 5 years. So people, in a way, voted for presidential system and for the political stability in Turkey.
And the economy has sharply risen with the rate of 4% in the first quarter of 2023. And this comes to all of us as a complete surprise because of the given economic situation that Turkey was facing. So what exactly has caused this spike in the economic performance?
So the Turkish economy, actually, in terms of the real economic variables, such as the growth rate, you just mentioned the first quarter growth figure of 4%. And in 2022, we had a 5.6% of growth. Before that, it was an annual 11.9%. And before that year, in 2020, we had a 1.9% growth rate. So we do have actually high real growth figures, real economic, positive real economic variables, including the employment, export, production, investment figures. But on the other hand, we of course we do have financial, macro financial, monetary nominal volatilities, including the exchange rate volatility, inflation rate, and the interest rates. Even although the policy rates are decreasing, the market rates they are actually going up a little bit in Turkey. As not something we would want to see, honestly. And adding the huge devastation due to the earthquake that we had in the beginning of February, this is actually another huge challenge for the Turkish economy. But from the positive side, there are also many reasons to believe that this earthquake it could also lead to a new process of revivification, regeneration for the Turkish economy, with the huge government expenditures and international support, new financing mechanisms that are developed in Turkey, including the construction sector and many other related sectors in that earthquake hit region, and also considering these new era supply side policies in Turkey, and they are also considered to fight the nominal volatilities as well.
Dr. Bilal, Turkey's interest rates have been cut down. The economic policies were criticized heavily. The inflation, as we have witnessed, was on 24 years highest. According to some estimates, it was 85.5% in year 2021. So how have been Recep Tayyip Erdogan able to convince people that still steering in the same policies would be effective?
Well, I am still optimistic. Well, we had a record high of inflation, but last month it came down to 43%. And first, with the base effect, and second, with mainly the supply side policies that are implemented in Turkey, including the new projects such as the domestic energy production projects in natural gas, oil, in nuclear reactor, renewable energy, and many other supply side policies that are planned in the Turkish economy. I would say they will be able to help Turkey bring down first the current account deficit, because that is also increasing the external finance needs of the Turkish economy and putting in pressure on both the Turkish lira and also the inflation figures. So still, there is a lot of reason to believe that these figures, inflation and exchange rate volatilities, they will go down looking forward. But on the other hand, of course, we have some other figures, measures to be careful about, such as the huge interest payments over the debt, the external debt and domestic debt. And they have reached a few 100 billion Turkish lira. And they have even doubled in the past few years. So that is one thing we have to be careful about, the huge interest payments. And also the labor share of national income, that has also been going down from 36% in the past few years to now 26%. And we have to work on that as well. We have to use new measures, new policies, including the rising minimum wages, social policies, and find ways to distribute the income, national income, more equally, more in a more just way.
Also, Dr. Bilal, how do you see this historic devaluation of Turkish lira, and do you believe it is going to be a point of concern for the newly elected president now?
So these unorthodox policies, these unconventional policies, they led to huge financial macro volatility. That is a reality. That's a fact. But I would say the problem in that process was more about communication of these policies and the instruments and the things they were planning to do, and also about the management of expectations. So the huge acceleration in that inflation figures, that was actually unprecedented. And if the policymakers, including the central bank and Ministry of Finance, etc., all the related institutions in Turkey, if they were able to communicate those policies in advance, and if they were able to manage the expectations in the market much better, I would say those figures, they will probably be much lower.
And lastly, Dr. Bilal, do you believe any major shift in policies of Recep Tayyip Erdogan as he's about to decide his cabinet members very soon? So do you believe there are any major shifts in his policies that we are going to witness?
Well, first of all, my guess would be there will be a more market-friendly economic management team at the central bank and also at the Ministry of Finance and Treasury. All the relevant institutions and ministries in the government, they will probably be led by more market-friendly and more respected. Of course, all the leaders that we had so far, ministers and the managers of those institutions, they were still respected. But in terms of their communication with the market, there will probably be some changes in that sense. So that the team of managers, leaders, ministers, academics, or economists, that will be one factor. And also, in this new era, Turkey will actually start to collect the fruits of all the huge projects that it has implemented in the past 20 years. So the external dependence is decreasing in Turkey in many senses, in energy, in infrastructure, defense, in all sectors. It has been going down. And also the huge projects that were implemented in past 20 years, they will start to pay off in the next 5 to 10 years. And these figures, these positive figures, they will also help bring down these huge volatilities, the nominal, macro, and financial volatilities. So these type of factors, I would say, they demonstrate that there's still a lot to be optimistic about Turkish financial figures and macro financial variables.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bilal Bagish, for being guest on our show today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Turkey's politics as well as Turkey's economy is going to stay at the center of attention for many, because Turkey is an important country of Europe and plays a pivotal role, not only economically, but also in the geostrategic settings. Turkey is a guarantor of the grain deal between Russia and Ukraine, which has ensured the lifeline of many African countries, many countries that were entirely depending on Ukraine's wheat. Let's see how Turkey steers out of its political and economic crisis under the leadership of Recep Tayyip Erdogan.